super bright headlights. Who the fuck do you think you are? Going to preface this with I have a TBI and bright light gives me an immediate and real painful migraine right behind my eyes, so maybe I am just being sensitive. That being said, those of you with a question to those with extremely high-powered headlights. Do you truly grasp the impact of your driving habits on others? To provide some context, I've suffered a traumatic brain injury and am particularly susceptible to intense light. Exposure to extremely bright headlights triggers a debilitating migraine, causing excruciating pain behind my eyes. While I may be more sensitive to light than others, I still believe it's essential to address this issue. To those with extremely bright headlights, I implore you, consider the well-being of fellow drivers. What drives your need to illuminate the road with such intensity? Is it truly essential to see 1,000 feet ahead with your high-beam headlights? If you could adjust your headlights to a more moderate setting, it would greatly alleviate the distress caused to drivers like me. I'm not asking for extreme concessions. A simple adjustment could make a world of difference. By being more considerate of others, you can contribute to safer roads and avoid potentially devastating consequences. I would greatly appreciate your understanding and cooperation in this matter. After about 15 years, I still haven't gotten over my GF's passing. 45M, lost my GF. Would be 42, 15 years ago because she had an allergic reaction to something she ate at a restaurant. Ever since, I haven't been in a relationship and haven't stopped grieving over her dia. The weight of a bittersweet past. It's been nearly 2 decades since a painful loss left an indelible mark on my life. 15 years ago, I lost the love of my life, my partner of many years. She was a vibrant and beautiful individual who was taken from me far too soon. Her life cut short by a devastating allergic reaction she experienced at a restaurant. As I look back on that fateful day, I am consumed by memories of what could have been, and the what-ifs that continue to haunt me. I was 30 years old at the time, and I will always regret my decision to dine at that restaurant, a choice that I now believe contributed to her untimely passing. Since then, I've been unable to find the courage to form new relationships or to let go of the pain that still lingers within me. I've attempted to seek solace in therapy, hoping to find some measure of closure, but even the guidance of multiple therapists hasn't been enough to ease my emotional burden. The weight of guilt that I've carried with me all these years continues to suffocate me, and I fear that I may never be able to escape its grasp. In the aftermath of her passing, I was unable AITA changing someone's Instagram password for using my email. I got an email that my account name had been changed. Since I didn't have an account under the supposed name, I checked it out. It wasn't my account, so I demeaned the other person. Hi, it's actually. Am I the asshole, AITA, for altering a minor's Instagram password and security settings? I received a notification that someone had changed the name associated with my account. Since I'm the only one with this account, I decided to investigate. After a quick search, I discovered that the name change was actually linked to a different individual's account. I messaged the user, informing them that their account name had been altered and inquired if they'd like to change their linked email address. However, they responded with a hostile message claiming to be the actual owner of the account. Given that the user seemed to be underage and appeared to be in need of guidance, I chose to intervene and use this as an opportunity to educate them on account security. I altered their password and removed their linked recovery phone number, then added a bio to their profile asking them to message me with their correct email address so I could assist them in changing it. Edit. Several users have expressed concern for the user's age and security settings. I should have been more cautious and involved a trusted authority figure or a parent, guardian to help resolve the issue. Update. After reevaluating the situation, I understand the severity of the actions I took. It was not my place to alter. Don't schedule me for hours you don't want me to take. When I worked for Radio Shack, my manager would schedule me for 2-hour lunches but expect me to only take 30-minute lunches and work the other hour and a half. Doing that helped boost the store's dollar per hour sales rate, but it's unacceptable to schedule work hours you know I won't fulfill. When I worked at Radio Shack, my manager had a questionable practice of scheduling employees for extended breaks, anticipating they would work part of the assigned time. He would schedule me for 2-hour lunches but expected me to use only 30 minutes for personal time, leaving the remaining hour and a half for work. This tactic may have resulted in a temporary sales increase, but it prevented me from meeting the required 40 hours of work to be considered full-time. Consequently, I took a stand and insisted on adhering to the scheduled 2-hour lunches. My manager became irritated with my decision, but his attempts to pressure me were ultimately futile, as the schedules were under his authority. The disagreements continued for a week before he eventually stopped this practice. His tenure at Radio Shack eventually came to an end when other questionable actions were discovered. Edit: no changes were made to this story. Update: no update information available. TLDR: employee took a stand against unfair scheduling practices and insisted on adhering to scheduled breaks, ultimately leading to their manager's change of behavior and eventual termination. I just got cheated on. I thought I had bacterial vaginosis and went through 2 treatments, but I'm still showing weird symptoms. Well, turns out my boyfriend was cheating on me weeks ago, and he told me yesterday. He had unprotected sex and potentially caught an STD. He only tall. Life took a dramatic turn. I had been convinced I was dealing with a bacterial infection and had undergone not 1, but 2 rounds of treatment, yet the strange symptoms persisted. Little did I know that my boyfriend had been unfaithful weeks prior, and it wasn't until he revealed the truth yesterday that I discovered the real cause of my discomfort. It turns out that his actions may have put both of us at risk of contracting an STI, as he had unprotected sex. What's even more astonishing is that he confessed to cheating only because he didn't want me to suffer from the long-term consequences of an undiagnosed STI, like chlamydia. Now, I'm facing not 1, but several challenges. I've likely contracted COVID, I'm dealing with symptoms of chlamydia, and I've just been cheated on. It's a harsh reality to face, especially as we usher in the new year. Happy New Year. Edit: I want to express my gratitude for the kindness and support I've received. It means a lot to me, and I'm confident that better days are ahead. To everyone, I wish you a wonderful 2022. Original post. Okay, so, some bad news and some amazing news. Bad news: my brother figured out that we weren't really pregnant at his wedding and he is livid. As is his wife. I don't. A mixed bag of news and an unfortunate reality check. I have some bitter news to share and some incredibly joyful news to top it off. The not so great part is that my brother is not pleased to find out we had been pretending to be expecting at his wedding after he proposed at mine. His reaction, coupled with that of his new wife, caught me a bit off guard. I have to admit, I found some satisfaction in having the upper hand for a while, but now I'm facing the consequences. On the other hand, the fantastic news that should truly overshadow everything is that we are actually expecting a child. It turns out we were indeed pregnant at the time of his wedding, but we didn't know it yet. Thanks for the support, and I suppose it's time for me to take a step back and reflect on my actions. TLDR: my brother's not happy after discovering our fake pregnancy at his wedding, but it turns out we're really expecting. Time for me to grow up. My school's prom changed the rules to attending after selling hundreds of tickets, no refunds. My school prom changed the rules of attending after most of the students already bought their tickets. The new rules were that you could not have more than 4 absences in the school year. A surprise twist has shaken the community of students awaiting their school's prom, as the event organizers have altered the attendance requirements after a significant number of tickets have been sold. The new rules dictate that students can no longer attend the prom unless they meet stringent standards, having a maximum of 4 absences throughout the school year and 12 tardies. This sudden change has left the majority of students ineligible to participate in the highly anticipated event. The students are understandably upset, but the school administration has issued a firm stance on refunds for the tickets that have already been purchased. The price of individual tickets was $65, while couples tickets were $100. Over 240 tickets have been sold prior to the implementation of the new rules. Considering the circumstances, parents are seeking guidance on potential legal actions they can take in response to this change of heart. I opened up to my boyfriend about childhood sexual abuse and he told me he wasn't attracted to me anymore. I shared that I'd experienced sexual abuse as a child. Not in detail but just a general, it happened and it's something that I have to heal from. He sat me down. A vulnerable moment with my partner was met with an unsettling reaction. I chose to confide in him about my past experiences with childhood sexual abuse, sharing that it's an aspect of my life I'm actively working to overcome. The next day, our conversation took a disturbing turn. He revealed that my disclosure had left him feeling uncomfortable and turned him off. His words suggested that he was overwhelmed by the prevalence of similar stories and that it had soured his attraction towards me. This revelation has made me feel like a burden and has made it increasingly difficult to consider opening up to others about this sensitive part of my life. A child drowned when I was at the lake. I went to the lake recently with some friends, and while we were there, a child drowned. I responded to screams when I heard them and recovered his body from the bottom of the lake as fast as I could. After getting his body, I performed. A traumatic incident occurred during my recent visit to the lake with friends. While at the lake, a tragic event unfolded when a child lost their life in the water. Upon hearing the cries for help, I rushed towards the source and quickly retrieved the child's body from the lake's depths. Following the recovery of the child, I initiated CPR in an attempt to revive them until they began showing signs of respiration. Although the child was subsequently transported to the hospital, I fear that they may not have regained consciousness. Considering the circumstances, I'm left wondering whether I should take any measures to safeguard my legal position. Despite my best efforts to save the child, the prolonged time underwater raises concerns about potential liability in the event of their passing. As a resident of Washington State, USA, I'm seeking guidance on the steps I can take to protect myself from any potential legal repercussions. AITA for telling my son he deserved his GF breaking up with him. So my son had a long-distance GF recently for about 2 years. She was great, a really nice girl, and we all loved her, welcomed her with open arms. She was flying here constantly to visit him, like a weekend a month. Was I the asshole for telling my son he got what was coming to him after his long-distance girlfriend broke up with him? My son and his long-distance girlfriend were together for about 2 years. Despite her frequent visits to our country, he made little to no effort to reciprocate with trips to her place. I tried to talk some sense into him multiple times, suggesting he consider flying over to her, but he refused. I also mentioned that his girlfriend was willing to relocate to our country if he would be willing to visit her in hers. However, he flatly refused to make the necessary travel arrangements. He seemed to be embracing a sedentary lifestyle, stating that he was perfectly content with staying put, even giving up on vacations and other opportunities for exploration. Last week, he broke the news to us that his girlfriend had ended their relationship. After checking her social media, it appeared she's already moved on with someone new. My wife and I have no doubt that she was seeing this new person during her time with my son. I shared my genuine thoughts with my son and his wife, stating that I agreed with his ex's decision to end the relationship. I made it clear that my son didn't treat his girlfriend with the respect she deserved and that he TIFU by inviting a Tinder date over to my house and accidentally meeting his mother like many other unfortunate souls. My non-existent dating life has me turning to the dating apps. This particular one is from Tinder. I'd been chatting with this guy a few days, and everything TIFU by inviting a Tinder date over to my house and accidentally meeting his mother. My lackluster social life has driven me to rely on dating apps, with Tinder being my current go-to. Recently, I matched with a guy who seemed perfect. We shared similar interests and values, and he lived relatively close. We'd been chatting for a few days, and everything felt genuinely promising. I decided to invite him over for a casual barbecue in my backyard. He asked if he could contribute, and I suggested he bring some bacon for the burgers. He agreed and said he'd arrive soon. Given his proximity, I expected him to be there within 15 minutes. I started preparing the grill and seasoned the burgers. However, 30 minutes passed before he messaged me, expressing hesitation about coming over. I brushed it off as nerves and encouraged him to come. The guy who showed up was a bit of a shock, but I tried to be understanding. He barely took a breath throughout our conversation, sharing a plethora of stories about his family. I attributed it to his nervousness, but it was quite overwhelming. When we sat down to eat, he produced a Ziploc bag containing 2 slices of bacon from his pocket, which he only placed on his burger TIFU by dumping a beautiful girl over her. Smell. During sex I had my first GF when I was 19. Everything was great. She's a beautiful blonde with blue eyes and had a great personality. After a few months of dating she told me that she will come visit me at work, a secluded PLA. I made a colossal mistake in my past relationship, and I'm still trying to come to terms with it. When I was 19, I met my first serious girlfriend, and everything seemed perfect. She was stunning, with her blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, and had an incredible personality to match. After a few months of dating, we had a chance encounter where we were alone, and we both knew what was going to happen that evening. In preparation, I bought a fresh pack of condoms, thinking that would take care of any issues. When the time came, things started to heat up, and we shed our clothes. However, just as things were about to get intense, I caught a whiff of something awful and was immediately turned off. Despite not wanting to let her down, we went through with it, but it was an unenjoyable experience for me. In the following days, I couldn't shake the feeling that I would never be able to connect with her in that way again. Feeling young and foolish, I ended the relationship, not realizing that my mistake was far from her doing. 3 years later, I had the same experience with the same brand of condoms, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. The smell wasn't coming. Mill lied about my baby gender. Now have to see my baby in the clothes they brought. English is not my first language and I am in mobile, so please be patient with me. They told me in our Amethyst hole you guys would like this. November last year I, 30F, gave birth to our first baby. My mother-in-law, Mill, made me lie about my baby's gender. Now she's upset we're dressing him in the clothes she brought. I'm sorry if my English isn't perfect as it's not my first language and I'm typing on my mobile, so please bear with me. They told me in our Amethyst hole you guys would like this story. Last November, our family welcomed a newborn baby boy. It was a momentous occasion, especially since it's the first grandchild on my side of the family and the 6th on my husband's side. As it so happens, all 6 children in my husband's family are boys, which might have contributed to his mother's strong opinion about her expected grandbaby being a girl. From the moment we announced our pregnancy, Mill convinced herself that we were having a girl. I told her that we would share the news with her once we found out, but she just wouldn't believe us when we said it was a boy. She even went so far as to tell the entire family that we were having a girl, claiming that I was just joking or pretending to be upset because I wanted a boy first, which wasn't true. She also mentioned that we were planning to name Hey People. It's been a while since my original post and I have some free time today and not much to do with it, so I'm a new reality. Embracing life after heartbreak. It's been some time since my initial post, and I've finally found the time to reflect on the journey I've been on. Since then, I've experienced significant changes that have led me to where I am today. My partner of 3 years couldn't cope with the fact that I'd placed a new priority on my life, my little sister, whom I adopted after our parents' passing. I must admit that I wasn't perfect at balancing time between the two, often spending more time with my sister, which I believe was understandable, given her situation. However, my partner's behavior towards my sister was inconsistent, sometimes being incredibly kind and other times borderline mean. I addressed this issue with her multiple times, but it seemed like we were stuck in a cycle of arguing and making progress, only to regress again. The final straw came 3 weeks ago, when we had a massive argument. She accused me of not loving her anymore and that I was playing favorites. I explained that my sister isn't a child for me to play favorites with, and that my sister's current situation requires more attention due to her loss. In the end, my partner returned to her ultimatum: her or my sister. TIFU by accidentally attending an underage party. Like a creep standard, this happened about 10 years ago, etc. I was 25 heading to a 21st for a girl from uni at her house. She was living with her parents. It was far from my house and I knew the street, so I just left home and TIFU by stumbling into an underage party. Completely unaware of the situation, it all unfolded about a decade ago. I was 25 years old, heading to a 21st birthday celebration for a university friend at her house, where she lived with her parents. The location was quite far from mine, and I knew the street, so I decided to head there directly. However, upon arriving at the street, I realized I didn't have the correct address or the invitation. The court had only around 40 houses, and it was relatively quiet, so I took a stroll to try and locate the party by listening for music and signs of activity. I walked up to the only house with some noise and music coming from inside, where I found a 25-year-old man holding a bottle of vodka and celebrating a birthday. I introduced myself as a friend of the birthday girl, Steph, and the mother welcomed me into the house, walking me past a group of around 15 teenagers who seemed uncertain about me. I initially thought they might be younger cousins attending the party, and I assumed the main celebration was taking place outside. As I walked further through the house, the mother led me to her other daughter's room, who coincidentally shared the same name, Steph TIFU, by mocking my mom about sex and now suffering her wrath. My family is stacked like pancakes during the quarantine. My parents are still into each other, and I'm grateful, although I'd pass on seeing the ass pats and octopus entanglements I've witnessed. My parents have TIFU by poking fun at my mom's intimacy with my dad. Now suffering the consequences. Living with my family during the pandemic has been an exercise in patience. Although I'm grateful that my parents are still affectionate, I could do without the over-the-top displays of affection we've witnessed. With the house being our confinement, they've made the most of the situation by blasting music and seemingly having the time of their lives. Yesterday, I was cooking with my mom while listening to our shared Spotify playlist. She was expressing her apologies about my college life being put on hold, and we previously had a conversation about sex but maintained a "don't ask, don't tell" policy. As she was reminiscing about our lockdown time, I jokingly commented that my siblings and I were aware of how much she and my dad were enjoying the time together. My mom playfully blushed and laughed it off, and I assumed that was the end of it. However, this morning I woke up to my mom's clever revenge. She blasted my own playlist back at me, turned up to ear-shattering levels. She's the type to retaliate with a bad joke, so I quickly replaced the songs with the most obnoxious children's music I could find. Boss banned phones. He didn't realize that meant I needed him to do everything. So I work in a family-run pet shop and it's just the owner, husband and wife, late 50s, and me, F22. My boss is an explosive man, and when he's very stressed he loses his shit randomly over. Working at the family-run pet shop, I'm often left to manage the day-to-day operations without much input from our bosses, a husband and wife duo in their late 50s. My own role within the business is multifaceted, with responsibilities extending beyond pet care to social media management. One morning, our normally volatile boss stormed into the shop at 9 a.m., declaring that phones were off limits. "I'm banning phones," he exclaimed. "Leave it in your van. Don't worry about the work Facebook page, I'll handle it." I obliged, leaving my phone behind, assuming this restriction would be temporary. However, by 9:20 a.m., I found myself caring for the birds, hamsters, rabbits, and guinea pigs. In addition to their usual food, we offer fresh fruit and vegetables, some of which I had purchased personally and some courtesy of our boss. Several of the animals have specific dietary requirements, necessitating research into safe consumables. I posed a few questions to my boss, only to receive vague responses like, "Probably," or "I don't know." When I suggested he look up the information, I proceeded to ask a series of follow-up questions regarding the compatibility of asparagus and cherries with various cameras have to be on, no matter what. Fine by me. Don't mind the pump. I am a project manager and data scientist. I manage lots of different public health related projects. There is one project in particular that includes a really demanding team from a federal government DEPA. Prioritizing professionalism in virtual meetings. As a project manager and data scientist, I oversee numerous public health related projects, including one with a demanding team from a federal government department. Upon my return from maternity leave, I settled into a new routine, working 3 days a week in my private office. To accommodate my baby's needs, I had to pump breast milk at regular intervals. Fortunately, I have a hands-free, wearable pump that enables me to multitask while pumping, albeit with some visibility. Recently, a Zoom call coincided with one of my pumping sessions. To avoid missing the meeting, I initially turned off my camera, but soon faced a stern reminder from our lead to keep our cameras on. The directive was intended for a simulated in-person meeting, which seemed to imply an emphasis on maintaining a professional atmosphere. I sent a private message to explain my situation, but received no response. Instead, I was instructed again to turn my camera on. I reluctantly complied, knowing that my camera was not aimed at my chest but that the pump's presence would still be apparent. As I unmuted myself, the sound of the pump became audible, and I discreetly acknowledged the situation by saying, "Thank you for your patience. I was adjusting my breast AITA for switching to regular milk to prove my lactose-intolerant roommate keeps stealing from me. Me and 2 other guys share an apartment together and we split all the bills. The only thing we don't split costs on is groceries. Everyone's in charge of buying their own food. Am I the asshole for setting a trap for my lactose-intolerant roommate to catch him in the act of stealing from me? I live with 2 other guys in our apartment, and we all split the bills except for groceries. We each buy our own food and label it to avoid any confusion. This has been going on for almost a year, and I'm at my wit's end. My lactose-intolerant roommate, R, keeps stealing my food and drinks. When I get home from work, I often find my labeled containers missing or my food has mysteriously disappeared. Despite my repeated confrontations with R, he consistently denies any wrongdoing and accuses me of being paranoid. However, I've noticed that the thefts always occur when R is present and has left for work before my roommate and I return home. My other roommate and I have a similar work schedule, so I know he's not the culprit. My roommate has also experienced issues with R taking his food, but it's less frequent. R is a bit of a hypocrite, as he buys a lot of food for himself and even labels it to avoid anyone touching it. He's always pointing out what's his when he returns from grocery shopping. Last week, I'd had enough of RTIFU by teaching my baby sign language. I go to this mommy and me thing every week with my daughter. Not because it's my kind of thing, but because my mother-in-law paid the membership for a year as a Christmas gift to my 1-year-old, aka she doesn't think I am. I'm a casualty of mommy guilt and ASLI attend a weekly mommy and me gathering with my 1-year-old daughter, mainly because my mother-in-law's generous gift of a year's membership was a veiled attempt to correct my parenting. The group consists of overly enthusiastic mothers who seem to have it all together, planning elaborate birthday parties and debating the merits of screen time while their kids stare blankly at each other. However, one thing caught my attention. Every child in the group seemed to know sign language, which I thought was pretty impressive. I began to look into teaching my daughter some basic signs for common needs, and to my surprise, she picked it up quickly. She learned to sign, more, all done, and drink, as well as her parents' names. I was thrilled, thinking I had finally found a way to connect with my child on a deeper level. It seemed like a great way to encourage her communication skills and have fun at the same time. Today, with my husband away, I decided to take my daughter out for a casual dinner at a local burger joint. She loves French fries, just like me, so we headed there for a quick meal. The server brought her, update, my fiancé, 26F, and I, 27M, decided to break up, but she couldn't move out due to the lockdown. After about 4 months isolating with her, I've realized I don't want to break up anymore. Original post. Here, although I didn't get to reply to any of the comments. Update. My fiancé, 26F, and I, 27M, had a rough patch in our relationship, but we're now working on repairing it due to the lockdown. After 4 months of isolation together, I've come to realize that I don't want to go through with the breakup. Although I didn't get the chance to respond to all the comments from my original post, I did make sure to read them all. I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone who offered their advice and support. Here's what happened over the next 5 days. The day after I posted, nothing much changed. I spent that time reflecting on the kind of future I envision with my fiancé and thinking about our past mistakes. We got caught up in our work and lost sight of each other, which led to our current situation. In my original post, I questioned whether my feelings for her were just a temporary infatuation, but I've come to realize that they never truly faded. It's as if my heart was in a deep slumber, and I forgot about the love we share. Some of you may know that I'm not very good at expressing my emotions, and I tend to keep things to myself. My fiancé is one of the few people TIFU by having sex with my wife and accidentally absorbing a bunch of her estrogen. My wife has very bad endometriosis, and we've struggled with infertility since we started trying to have kids about 6 years ago. We've been super lucky to have one baby through in vitro fertilize. I accidentally absorbed my wife's estrogen and turned into a grumpy bear. My wife and I have been through a roller coaster of emotions and struggles due to her endometriosis and our journey with infertility. We've been trying for a second child through IVF, which involves taking a series of fertility medications, including estrogen supplements. These supplements are taken vaginally to increase her chances of conception. Our sex life has been affected significantly by infertility, but we've made a conscious effort to rekindle